Well, if there's a God in heaven, we all want what's his. But power, greed, and corruptible seed seems to be all that there is. And I'm looking out the window of the St. James Hotel, and no one could sing those blues like Blind Willie McTell. Yeah, no one could sing the blues like Blind Willie McTell. So, what we're doing here is discussing music in a musical way. What's been going on in the last 100 years is relevant to what's about to happen, because it's all coming together, because we've reached what we call the end days. It's actually not as bad as it appears. It's actually just the collapsing of time. It's when we realize that we haven't got what we should have together. And it's all going to fall apart, and then we're going to put it back together again. So it's not really that much, you know. It's just a sort of a glitch in the matrix, and it'll all resolve. Many people will suffer, many will die, but many are suffering and many are dying. So we won't notice it too much. The worst thing that's going to happen is the internet's going to go down. That's really going to fuck people off. Okay, well, this guitar is a favorite of mine. In 1980, I ran into a guitar playing acquaintance, friend, person I knew very well at the time. His name was Corbin Simpson. I said, "Corbin, you got that $500 you stole from me?" And Corbin said, no, it wasn't me, bro. I said, "It was you. I mean, I saw you steal it. I want my money back." And he went, "Oh, no," and he ran away. And I didn't make anything of it, so I left him alone. And the next time I saw Corbin, I said, "Corbin, you got that money you owe me?" And he went, "What? No, I don't owe you money." What? Then one day, Corbin comes staggering into my place, holding this guitar. And he said, "Oh man, I haven't got that money, but I got this for you." And he handed me this guitar, and I went, "Oh, okay, well that's it, you're clear, we're even." And he went, "Okay, thanks very much, mate." And he went away. And I went, "Oh, that's great." So the guitar needed a bit of work, did a bit of work to it, got it fixed up a little bit. Everything else, I was performing with it one day, and there was a legend of guitar playing at the gig. There's a guy called Billy TK, who was in a band called the Underdogs in the 60s, and Jimi Hendrix tried to steal his band. That's how good his band was. He flew Neil Edwards and his drummer, I can't remember the drummer's name, to Los Angeles to have a jam with him. But anyway, Billy TK was in the audience, and he came up to me and he said, "Oh, what are you doing with that guitar?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Corbin, I gave that to Corbin to fix." And I said, "Oh, Corbin gave it to me for a bad debt." And I said, "Bill, you owe me money too, so we'll just call it even." And Bill said, yeah, that's all right. So it ended up costing me about $1,000, and it's worth not quite that much now. But it's a 1964 Hofner, and it's been owned by two legends of guitar, or stolen. Probably by both of them. Billy was a thief as well, so it was probably stolen by Billy. So. You said that you love me. She turned from me to him. Everyone knows that truth died the day we invented words. You said that you loved me as you turned from me to him. Well, the thing with the music, right, which is, my music is internal, it's reflective. And there's two types of players, right? There's guys who play better than they hear, and there's guys who hear better than they play. And the best players in the world are the latter, the ones who hear better than they play, because they're always striving and reaching out to get to that point where they can hear that note and hear that sound and hear that melody. Well, I'm one of the first types, which is I play better than I hear. Every time I hear myself, I think, fuck, that's good. You know, wow, I'm surprised, you know. So, and that really annoys the second group a lot. And I tend to play music with the second group because I appreciate good musicians and I like hearing really good music. But the second group, the people who hear better than they play, are tortured by it. They're tortured by their own inability to achieve the greatness that they know they can hear, where I'm sort of happy with what I've got. So, and that makes me self-satisfied and enjoy my music, and I play for my own enjoyment. And that's been enough for me in a lot of things. But what I've noticed over the years, because I've been playing for a long time now, is that the music becomes a prophecy. The songs that I write come true, where some people write songs that are true and some people write songs that are bullshit. And my songs could be bullshit, but then they come true.
It's almost a manifestation.
Yeah, well, it's a realization, and you know, like it's a projection into time and space as well, which is you have an idea and then the idea comes true. So that's not really a forecast or a premonition, really. It's more of you're driving yourself. But when you're not aware of it, then it becomes quite surprising. And, you know, like I found my music to be surprising at times.
Tell me about the formation of the Clear. How did the Clear come around?
Oh, that was good. It started out, you have to go back in time to a pre-internet time and to a pre-collapse of socialism in New Zealand, back to the early 80s and the Springbok tour of 1981. In 1981, I met a clown teacher and I became a clown and started touring around doing clown. In 1981, I was 26 years of age, fit and wild and going everywhere doing all sorts of things, you know. Met musicians and got involved in music not as a player, because I didn't play then, I was just a clown, so I used to do emceeing at shows and stuff. I met my guru in 1982, and 1983 I opened a business in Simon Street in Auckland called the Performance Cafe. And that was supposed to be a theatre music cafe, but it was very small, only sat about 50 people. So it was a tiny little venue, and for some inexplicable reason, it was incredibly successful. It worked 7 nights a week, 3 acts a night. We opened at 6 o'clock in the evening and closed at 6 o'clock in the morning.
The cafe seemed to be the most open venue possible because unlicensed. The law doesn't bother you about things unless you're breaking the law, as opposed to having to stay within a strict format. We have blues, jazz, rock, comedy, performance orientated, which means that you walk on stage and do something. And the stage is small and the cafe is small, so there's a tendency for the stage and the audience to get mixed up. Like on Thursday night, we had a group called the Lifeboats performing, and they actually walked off stage and pulled the audience on stage. They set up a drum machine rhythm section, synthesized bass, told people what chords to play on guitars, mic'd up a couple of bongo drums, and the band was playing Space Invaders in the back room while the customers were playing music on stage. Things like that happen often.
So it was just unbelievable, really. And we had all sorts of musicians and players and everything. And it became more and more musical. And I was the cook and a clown. And it became apparent that people were speaking in guitar around me, and I wasn't. So I picked up a guitar and started playing. I had played very, very little guitar up until then. I had played a little bit of acoustic around the hippie communes and had a bit of fun with it, but not really played anything. The name The Clear came from Scientology, being clear. One of the other dishwashers invited me to a Scientology program. So they told me that I had the highest communication levels ever recorded and the lowest level of responsibility, and would I please go away? So I found out that they called the people who had attained what they were, Scientology, they called them The Clear. So I decided to be in The Clear. And a genius keyboard player was washing dishes at the cafe, and his name was Lee Gaylor. And Lee and I used to come out of the kitchen at 2 o'clock in the morning and plug into what was going on in the room and play weird occult, sort of punk classical fusion stuff. And also there was a band that used to play a lot at my cafe, a punk band called Fog. So Fog would play a Fog, and then we would support them, and we were called The Clear and Fog. So we did a few gigs with those sorts of people, and then moved into sort of an artier field. A guy called Hamish Hill joined the band, and Hamish was dysfunctional on an enormous level except for visual art. And he tore the band apart and restructured it in his image. And he said he wasn't an image maker, so it sort of pulled it apart, and The Clear disintegrated into sort of a visual catastrophe, really. But then we got a gig with the Commodores, which was very weird because we were a neoclassical punk band playing with a black American funk ensemble who were huge at the time. That was sort of a rebirth. What happened then was that The Clear became, I decided that we actually had to play serious music, so we started rehearsing. We had 2 rehearsals for that show. The musicians stepped up beautifully, and that's one of the recordings that we have of The Clear, was recorded live at the Logan Campbell Centre during the support for the Commodores. We did a couple of studio things with The Clear because I knew some people who had studio time and knew people who owned studios. And we did deals, you know, like they'd do gigs and I'd give them food and they'd give me studio time and stuff like that. So we worked around and made a few recordings, but didn't go anywhere. And then the Clear sort of broke up in '86. Moved to a place called Perrier in Northland and lived on an orchard and worked doing honey and picking oranges and playing guitar. And when I came back to Auckland, I put another band together. And I think, I can't remember what we called. Oh, that's what we called Kabir, K-A-B-I-R. Kabir was an Indian Sufi saint that I was reading at the time, and I thought it was a cool name, so I called the band Kabir. All of the musicians who used to play at my cafe, I invited them to play. We did a couple of gigs in Ponsonby, and then they offered me the job of entertainment manager for Dominion Breweries, particularly running the Glue Pot. So I did that for a couple of years. Went back to clowning, and I did like 5 years of clowning from 1987 to 1993 or so. And then in that time, I played with a band from Mangawai in North Auckland. We called ourselves Fools Rush In. They were called the Merry Pranksters, with Reuben Lee, Wiramu Kemp, and I can't remember the drummer's name. Anyway, and we did a few gigs around, did a little bit of recording. We recorded onto a cassette tape in a one-room batch at the beach. We all crammed in and drank. We were drinking what we called a blue cocktail with blue curacao and vodka. Got very drunk, smoked a lot of pot, ate mushrooms, and made music together. They were all very young, and I was quite dementedly old. I was 30-something. And then my guru came to town. I was living in Kerikeri on the west coast. That's where I did Gruntled, which is that piece that you've got. And that was just me and a Sony camera. I've got the video of that.
21st century fox. Yeah, 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 yeah. She's 21st century fox. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 21st century fox. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's 21st century fox. Yeah, yeah. Laser light flashes and she moves across the sky. She knows the truth. Yes, you live until you die. Yeah, she's my 21st century fox. Yes, yes, yes. 21st century fox, 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 fox. 21st century fox. Yes, yes, yes. 21st century fox.
Tell us about Gruntled. I mean, it sounds like you sitting on a stool with a guitar and that's it.
That's it. I have a
It
video.
sounds very personal and like stripped down.
Yeah, well, I was basically at that stage, I can say without doubt that I was a complete and utter failure. I had failed at everything that I had attempted and done it brilliantly. I was a monstrously successful failure. I had been up high and now I was down low. But that didn't matter.
You had to output it somewhere. So
Yeah. So Gruntled was a bit like that. But what I noticed...
Why is it called Gruntled?
Because it's the opposite to disgruntled.
Right.
I wonder what happened to Gruntled. It was a word that disappeared.
Yeah.
So how can you be disgruntled if Gruntled doesn't exist?
Yeah. I always had to second guess it when I read it, and I was like, what is that word?
Yeah, it was sort of like if disgruntled is unhappy, then Gruntled must be happy.
Right.
So it must be. So that's really, but as I said, must be happy, even though I wasn't. What happened? And then in the 2000s, I met Hannah and a guy called Puck, and we did a thing called Los Hobos. But that was incredibly unsuccessful because of band politics. Hannah and I never got on, even though we have 4 children and lived together for 20 years. It was never happy. She hated me from day one. She just wouldn't tell me. So, you know, because that's the nature of our relationship. There was no honesty.
Bands usually hate each other, right?
No, I don't know. I haven't been in many bands where I'm not the front player, so they've always hated me.
Right.
You know, because
take the spotlight for the hate.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what I noticed about, you know, like nobody asks me to be in their band,
Yeah.
which is, you know, which is quite interesting. And I ask people to be in my band, and they say yes, and they come along and play and everything. But I've always had to be the leader of the band, and it's because of how I play. You tend to end up as a soloist a lot. And I worked out quite early in the piece with music that if I couldn't stand up and sing it by myself, it wasn't going to happen. All of the recording I did was not for release or to promote an album or do anything. It's just an actual recording of what happened on that day. You know, musically, it was me and whoever was in the room recording some stuff. So the intent was never to make music on a grand scale or conquer the world with my tunes. So it didn't happen. You know, one of the things I've noticed is that the stuff that I want to happen generally does. And I think that's true of everybody. I think desire, what you want leads you forward. You apply yourself to it and then you get it. You know, most people for some reason want houses in Auckland. So that's what they've got.
Look him in the eyes. Tell him you never tell lies. Look him in the eyes. Tell him you never tell lies. Never told a lie. Never tell lies. Never tell lies. Read the charge. Who's in charge? I'm not in charge. I'm not in charge. Who's in charge? I'm not in charge. Look him in the eyes. Tell him you never tell lies. Never told a lie. Their lies, not my lies. Their lies, not my lies. Your lies, not my lies. Your lies, not my lies.
People,
Who's in charge?
prepare yourself for the truth.
I'm not in charge. They're in
The
charge.
existence of the universe is in your own action, your perception, and your awareness. Who am I? Where am I going? Do I care? The answer to these great mystic and moral questions are mere phone calls. Our operators awake.
What an age!